Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Con Ulrich.
This is Rangru. Hello, hello, hello.
And folks, today we are on Zbuczyn and Div 2 play. But we've got some really interesting things going on. What's going on, sir?
So, in left-hand side in blue, we have YUYU playing Raappana, because I cast anything which has Finland in it. He is playing V for Victory. And right-hand side in red, we have Luna, I've raised using the king as a name. They're playing as a balanced income for Munte.
Yeah, and you know what? I think you're absolutely right. Whenever there's any kind of Finnish material, I am already there to kind of just really enjoy it. But I think V for Victory, that was an economy that they implemented a while ago. We haven't seen it in forever and a day.
Yeah, it's not a very popular one because it just gets stomped by Maverick, and Maverick is the raid to go. Usually people prefer to play balance as it's a bit more stable, but the V for Victory is interesting as you have to play decent in A phase, hold through B, and then, you rejuvenate into C phase here.
But the funny thing about it is that I think that was going to work really rather well against the Finnish, because the Finnish, when you're looking at them, they are, solidly infantry overall. So what's the deal with this? Why play a B phase that might be a little bit lackluster against a fourth Munted against when you're finished? Aren't they kind of falling off as it gets later and later?
I think it won't be too bad here for the Finns V for Victory. More so that the units are really cheap. They don't have anything expensive. So you kind of just already plug the front line of all your cheap dudes to begin with. From the scene early on, the Finns trying to make a push for the southern side, but getting blapped by a whole heap of Romanian/German aircraft coming in for the kills.
Yeah, there's that. There's also, too, like, we just saw this field gun getting absolutely murked by just snipers and more snipers. And, oh yeah, a 75 mil. So it's one of those moments where the Finns lost one of their 3 artillery pieces to just crazy amounts of sniping.
Yeah. I think it's going to be, as we're seeing, a kind of slow opener from both sides, as neither side has a whole lot of armored vehicles or good armored vehicles early on here. I mean, Luna has been able to get a very good foothold into the central town, but hasn't been able to really solidify that defense yet. It's mainly just a lot of snipers and a few small infantry squads.
Exactly. Now, a couple of early anti-air, which I think is probably a good idea since you've already seen 4 or 5 airplanes in the first 3 minutes of the game. But it's just a 20 mil, just to kind of say, hey, I see you up there, kind of chilling, doing his thing. Down to the south, we are seeing not a full push. More like we're going to take Sherwood Forest for ourselves, or whatever passes for that in Romania. And I don't really know what Sherwood Forest would be in Romania. But I know it'd be scary and probably full of a lot of dead Turks.
Yeah. Yes. But no, it's a very important hill down south here for Luna to put the pressure on. Because if you can hold onto that little forest position on that hill, then you can usually just capture the flag, and then you just kind of force everything into a CQC fight. And especially as the Romanians with some pretty damn good CQC troops, even against the Finns, that's the sort of engagement you want to be having here. And that also stalls any other further pushes down south.
That's fair, but I would say the artillery over here, maybe not as you go into C phase, but the artillery over here for YUYU does have the potential to be frisky, if we can put it mildly. So, yes, you can force that CQC action, but you can also just call down an absolute ridiculous amount of on-map artillery on your head. So
yeah, bring your umbrellas.
Yep, a Brawley will suit you just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Blenheim over here in the meantime going to go and hit these. I'm again not going to offend my Romanian counterparts out there, but some infantry that had been a little bit more aggressive, and now should be a little bit more dead. So,
yeah, it's a very good retake of that. It's not really part of the city. It's like the outskirts area. It's a very important position for YUYU to hold, so they can get a foothold back into the main city. They do have a decent foothold as well in the northern portion, and also just all the fire support here of the BA-10s and T-26s. When there's no anti-tank to stop him, some anti-tank weaponry is being brought on now. They are doing a decent job containing this initial Romanian push.
Yeah, the Armenians right now, while the Finns are trying to get into their skirts or debriefs or whatever kind of piece of equipment, clothing we're talking about here, they're not really activating a whole lot in the meantime either. They're already down a little bit in terms of the actual income, so they're not looking to play the major game here either. Um, Kind of interestingly, and I know we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but I really didn't quite conceive of the interplay between the two. This B phase is going to be kind of perversely what you would see out of a normal Maverick kind of Vanguard play, especially that income differential back and forth. I don't know if 40 income points is really going to replace that much, though. Maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe I'm completely off base. But with the fourth Munte over here, they don't bring in a lot of firepower in B phase.
I think the main thing here for the fourth will be the effective use of those Panzer IVs, because once you get into B and C phase, that's when the Panzer IV spam comes into play, and especially against Raappana, which is some of the worst ground-based anti-tank of any division on a relatively open-ish map, especially in the southern and central positions. Being able to use those Panzer IVs effectively to win those open ground engagements, I think will be vital here for Luna to take the dub.
True. Now, speaking of the on-map artillery before, we do have a 155 mil over here for the Finns. He's going to try to go and find that 60 mil stovepipe. So very much a cannon to kill, maybe not a mosquito, but maybe a bee. Certainly stinging some of his frontline forces, but I'm interested to see how the first shell or two is going to go, because that can tell us an awful lot about this kind of positioning.
Yeah, it's going to be counter battery in the mortar, so very good hits, yeah. And also, it being a radio artillery does help out as well. I believe the sissies are a little bit out of range for it to effectively give radio. Oh no, I think it's just barely in range actually for the radio coverage.
I think you are correct. Blenheim, in the meantime, going to look south for Sherwood and going to be engaged by the IAR. Thankfully, the 20 mil is going to go and keep them active. However, that might mean, of course, we're going to see some kind of unfortunate spacing on the bombs.
Yeah, I don't think he even
Oh, no, he didn't.
dropped the bombs. Oh,
he dropped one.
He dropped one. He still has another one he needs to get rid of. Dispose of the evidence.
Well, and the Henschel over here, actually, too. The 129, he actually does have enough firepower to take him out. There's enough ground fire, I think, to kind of cause issues here, too. So...
Yeah. I also want to take our attention a bit up north, because there has been stuff developing here. YUYU has been able to get a foothold into his position, that all-important flag on the crossroad. This northern part of this map has always been interesting, because, especially for the Finns, it's a good place to post, because CQC, forest, all of that stuff. But there's not a whole lot of flags to really take advantage of, and, well, they're pretty deep into enemy territory, especially at one deep in the forest.
You know, I'm kind of happy you made that comment. The other thing that I was actually noticing while you were even observing about that is there's been a lot of air power on both sides. The funny thing is that the Finns, who I did not expect to see all of that air power from, well, there's been almost constant Blenheims.
Yeah.
Almost constant.
It's like Germany in, 1940.
Well, the funny thing is, if you look back at their deck, they actually have the potential to bring in 32 aircraft. Which is absurd, because, you didn't think there were 32 aircraft in all of Finland today. So, the breadth that we're going to be potentially seeing here, we see PE-2s of rockets, we could be seeing Ju-88s, we could be seeing Hawks. There's so much junk that we could potentially be seeing that I'm really quite fascinated by this.
Yeah, the lack of tanks in the save phase has been very interesting, because we've just seen people really invest heavy on both sides into that air power, because it's it's a flying tank, but it's the decisive units which can use to bomb key targets, and then you can push on through with the infantry. I mean, you could also potentially see artillery spam from both sides. It would have been the second expensive option for them to start investing in, but especially in A phase when there's not a whole lot of anti-air on the field, you might as well exploit with the aircraft.
Well, and that's what we're seeing right now. So you saw the Blenheim down to the south. This continues to push out this Romanian infantry pretty consistently. The only thing I think I'd like to see is to see the 155 maybe put a little bit of supportive fire, because that one Shikari is not going to be able to hold the line.
Yeah, you really need some more infantry to counterattack so you can, solidify a forest once it's been bombed to bits from the Blenheim.
Then again, there's a 122. I don't know what the 122 shooting for. Oh no, he's going for the 47 mil. Okay, I approve. Well done.
Knock out those anti-tank guns. We also got the DO-17 just flying around, doing the rounds, probably getting some very good spots, yeah. And also the JU-88 going for the anti-tank gun.
The first of many, I would imagine. I mean, he can get 4 here, 4 later. Oh, sorry, 6 later, excuse me. And the anti-tank gun really shouldn't survive this. Yep, there we go.
Absolutely blapped here. It's actually quite interesting seeing how Luna has been able to hold onto his town with really not a whole lot of infantry. They've been quite spread out, but at the same time, YUYU does have a decent amount of troops, but we haven't really seen a major decisive push into his town. It's been a very skirmishy match, like very spread out for this first 10 minutes.
I'm more amused by the fact that now we have triple Mirbovagan coming on in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's... He's not messing about the air game any longer.
And it makes sense as to why he's doing it. By the way, 3 pioneers finally being brought in down south to support that rather overwhelmed Jakari. But, yeah, bombing in the center, not going to happen for a bit of time. And I think that's when we're going to start to see 155 artillery try to snipe or at least suppress that mobile anti-air.
Yeah, it's going to be critical. Because if the Finns lose all their aircraft, they're kind of buggered. They don't really have any ground-based weaponry to fight effectively. But at the same time, it's going to be hard for them to be counter-batteried because throughout those mobile wagons, they're mobile. And if you just do the lawless a bit of micro, they're going to be fine.
Which starts to kind of ask the question, if they can somehow force a breakthrough with their light vehicles, either the T-26s or the BA-10s, maybe that could be enough. Maybe.
Yeah. Like breaking through the rear line and try to kill the mobile wagons.
Yes.
That'd really be his best bet. But especially right now, without a whole lot of information of what's exactly in the town and having to drive through a town, I don't think he's going to be doing that until he actually clears it out first with the infantry. And they've seen the mobile wagons making themselves heard, just blapping everything out the sky, or forcing it away from the sky.
Well, and the 155 is already kind of starting to engage, but expertly redefining and just repositioning. Really, really like that.
Yeah, you pretty much want to keep those guys constantly on the move here.
Returning our thoughts to the north real quick before that artillery starts to kind of come down. T-26 is going to engage these Venatori de Munte, and the Infanteristi is going to run afoul, actually, of some Jakaris. So, while the Romanians are trying to take back some of this territory, I don't know if they're really in the best position to do so. I don't think so at all.
At the same time, up north, if YUYU does decide to push, I feel like they're going to overextend themselves quite a bit, just trying to get that one flag in the forest. Really, the best thing you can do in that northern side is secure that far northern flag, which he already has, and then just try to get a little farmstead where the Venatori sniper squad is, and just use that as an actual of being able to put some pressure from the north down south.
Well, I guess the other kind of funny thing here, too, is that the Venatori Cecitari are basically just snipers holding back the entire Finnish army. So it's kind of like the Winter War on the other foot.
Yeah, honestly, both sides have the sniper spam. Like, Romania just has just as many snipers, really, compared to the Finns here. So this is like a Modern Warfare 2 lobby.
Yes. All 360 no-scopes, and nobody uses anything close combat. Yep.
Mm-hmm. If you hardscope, you're filthy casual.
Exactly. Which is why I never saw a tactical nuke in my life. But what I am seeing right here is a 15-9 in favor of YUYU. So whatever the Finnish are doing, they're doing it well. Yeah,
he has been able to play the flag position very favourable to advantage, even into his B phase when they're low in the income. But we are now starting to see the Panzer IVs are being brought onto the battlefield. And I think this is where it's going to get quite critical here if YUYU can knock them out or not. He does have the air power. Seeing the southern run is going to get visited will the rockets connect?
Well,
They do.
Oh, wow. I saw all the explosions happen. I looked up to actually see what was going to happen with Jan Blenheim over here. And then, oof, the anti-air does take out that brave Rocket Man.
Mm-hmm. And if he can keep getting trades like that, where he loses a Panzer IV to one of those planes and shoots it down, that's an attrition war Luna can win.
Yes.
Especially if just that scary platoon of mobile wagons. I actually find it quite interesting. He's keeping them together. He's maneuvering them to critical points of the battlefield to really make sure in that location nothing dare flies by.
But I actually think that's the perfect way to utilize them. Yeah, the 37 mil pop gun is great on one level, but when you mass those fire together, you actually have something that's very, very scary. It has a very good chance of taking down enemy aircraft.
Yeah, and he needs to be killing those aircraft.
Yeah, and the other thing to kind of worry about though is as he's rotating them, he's using them as an area denial weapon, because the only thing the Finnish can really do for right now, for another about 3.5 minutes, is use the air power as a shield until the income really starts pouring in the other direction. And at that point, once we get to sea phase, they're going to be about equal, but Luna doesn't have the same sea card availability outside of the P4s.
Yeah. Especially for infantry spam. If YUYU can just keep the fights in these, CQC towns and forest positions, he should be pretty good. And you're seeing that in the center right here, actually making a pretty decent push into the town. But there's still a decent amount of fire support still alive. 2 Panzer IVs, Sniper Squad. They are slowing down the push, not completely stopping it, but enough to buy him some critical time to buy more Panzer IVs and more mobile wagons. We got 4 of them now in the field.
Yep, and that's all of he's got, though, too. So he's leaving 1 down south. Good call. I think what he's doing right now is he's giving the illusion that he's bought more than what he has. I don't see Luna really taking a look at this and saying, oh, yes, well, I've gone and bought a single mobile wagon. Like, the firepower that's been coming out in the first place, and there we go. YUYU is actually doing exactly what I was hoping he was going to do, which is, I know for a fact that at least it's down in the south. They may have rotated, but this means I can dump a lot of air power to the north. And this is, I think, exactly how the Finns have to play this, is you can't use it in one position. That means that another area has got to be open.
Yeah, I do like this northern bombing push. Once again, it's not really going to gain in a whole lot in terms of victory points, but it's better for him to be yeeting aircraft up north and watching them get shot down south. We're also seeing the fighters actually being brought in, and all the mobile wagons, their range is quite deadly.
True.
But not enough to get the kill.
The Morco coming on in head-to-head. Yeah, I don't really like head-to-heads much.
Oh, huge aircraft dump here.
Blenheim going in. This is actually not the super scary Blenheims. JU-88s, though. He's going for the Venatori. That's an interesting call. I'm not sure I would have deployed necessarily for that, but okay. IAR.
He goes down.
That's 25% of his kind of scary interceptors here. Yes, I realize there are BF-109s here, but the IARs are nothing to sneeze at.
No, they're not. But we're also seeing pretty much an immediate counterattack up north here from Luna, moving some of their Vanatoris into his, opposite northern forest position, managing to get some good hits. But if Luna can just keep buying time up north here, just forcing the fight for really, a lot of territory for not much, tactical points gain, that's going to work well for him. Especially if it's +1 point leads. If he can keep it, that's only 16 minutes. He has a good amount of time to build up that scary tank force.
But the question is, has he been doing that? So has he done that? And the answer right now is he really hasn't. Like, try to count the number of P4s on the field. I see 2.
There's going to be a third one. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not a whole lot of Panzer IVs right now. Both sides, just continuing to invest in the air war here.
Well, and I think part of it too is that he's panicking a bit because I think he sees the same thing that we've been seeing, which is the Finns are controlling the ground game. For me to get through that, there are choke points I have to fight through, so I must use infantry. The problem is that if he doesn't save enough infantry later on, when his tanks come through, it doesn't matter how badly he can outgun. The tanks have to get close enough, and at that point, Panzerfausts are very good, and there's 54 infantry that is waiting to be poured in right now.
Yeah. If you can just keep his infantry meat grinder going in the center, they should be, able to just hold and bleed out the Romanians so they can get some favorable peace deal. Worked for him before, maybe it can work for him again.
There's a piece of me that's now racking my brains to think whether or not the Romanians and the Finns actually ever fought one another.
No.
Yeah.
Way too far. The Germans and the Finns fought after they signed a peace treaty, which must have been really awkward. Like, hey, can you get out of Lapland, please? No. Well, we're going to use these Panzer IVs you gave us to kind of evict you now, so thanks for the aircraft support and all of that, but we kind of want out.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, oh, shoot. Oh, I'm sorry. We called takesy-backsies. And you're like, no takesy-backsies. And you're like, but my shoes were crossed because I tied my shoes.
Yeah.
JU-80 is almost for sure going to go down. He's going to be engaged by 4 separate Mobile Falcons. He's smoking from one, and like my mother always told me, when you're smoking, that's a problem. Yep. He goes.
Yeah, it's slowly but surely riddling down the Finnish air defense, or just air force in general here, and that's going to really limit long-range firepower. I mean, you're seeing down south infantry pushing out in the open, but there's not much ground-based fire support to actually support the infantry, and they're just slowly getting blapped here from, actually a lot of snipers.
Well, I'm going to give you a yes-but answer, because those are the best kind.
Yes.
But he doesn't have to win a month-long war. He just has to last another 13 and a half minutes.
I think that's going to be the question.
And that is very much the question. The only answer I can give you is I have absolutely no idea whether this is going to happen, but I'm definitely kind of almost rooting for the Finnish to put out, the final nail in the coffin here.
Yeah, because we've seen, small, stabs into the front line here from YUYU, but they haven't been able to make really much progress anywhere. But they haven't also lost a lot of territory either. The center has just been an absolute meat grinder, but they still hold the core central part of the town at least, which is good terrain for them. And then up north, it's just once again a meat grinder. If they just play defensive, they should be able to hold. It's going to be, really on to Luna here to try to make a decisive push somewhere. And while they've just, apart from all the aircraft investment and anti-aircraft investment, they don't really have a whole lot of, frontline troops in a decisive, formation to make a major push.
True. And I'm wondering, not that the Finns themselves are going to be really that deliciously deadly behind it, but he is slowly building a bit of a scratch assault team on the northern edge of the map. Southern, not so much. Southern, we're going back to Blenheims just to kind of go and continue to hold the line.
Mm-hmm.
And he's throwing in enough air power that he's going to lose something. I still think it's a JU-88, which again, I would much rather lose the Blenheims than lose the JU-88s. That's just me.
Yep. No, that's you definitely don't want to be losing those JU-88 to Blenheims, more just to pepper the front line here. And we're seeing both of them do get the bombs off. I think Messerschmitt might be able to shoot down one at least.
Oh, for sure.
Yes, he does.
JU-88, I think, does get away. I don't think he got his munitions off them. And looking down to the south, he got what he needed. He was able to force back that P4. Yes, the P4 is still going to be able to engage an awful lot from distance. But he's winning these moral victories. We have pushed him back for now. We've pushed him back for now. We've pushed him back for now. And that's going to be the constant thing. He can lose people. He can lose a lot of people. He just has to lose people at the right pace, so that way Luna can't get what he's hoping for out of all of this.
Yeah, and we've also seen Luna actually change tactics a bit and actually invest quite a lot in 100 and 105 millimeter artillery, so we are seeing the RT war go into effect. Honestly, this match is just, it feels like World War I more than anything, just infantry grinds, lots of air power, artillery spam,
but
not a whole lot of tanks or mobility.
But that's honestly exactly how you need to respond to this. My opponent has a lot of territory. I've got to go and find a way to get rid of that territory. Well, he's got a lot of infantry in every single direction. Okay, so I have to suppress that infantry. But he's got kind of weapon systems to support him. Okay, I've got to suppress those systems too. I can't do it with any kind of rapidity or speed or even consistency with my armored tank force. What's the other way to reach out and touch somebody? With 102, 104 kind of averaged out millimeters of engageability. So makes perfect sense.
It's going to be, I think the question will be whether this artillery in 10 minutes or so can pay themselves off to dig out the Finnish positions. Mainly using them in the counter battery role right now. And once again, just as long as YUYU buys for time, defends a small flag advantage lead, he can afford to lose rear line units, other ancillary units, just as long as the front line holds.
Yes, indeed. Of course, I get the feeling that, as one famous Finnish veteran stated, they will hold until they get orders to run. So the IAR-81 seasonally pushed back. The Morkel Moraine is just kind of like, yes, I'm a plane too, which is a cute thing. The 4 machine guns, a couple of 20 mils, but the 20 mils don't have like any firepower whatsoever for longer than about a second and a half of firing. And the 105s, actually, looking over here for the Romanians, are running slowly out of ammunition.
Yeah, we're also seeing 150s, 2 Hummels being brought on in,
3.
so good God. He's heavily investing in this artillery, which I think now he does have like the literal firepower to blow these Finns to smithereens. It's about getting enough frontline units in a cohesive formation to actually push through the craters that he's going to be making very soon.
Yeah, I think the thing I'm confused by is, I guess that's what this tells me, though, is that Luna can't really carry a tune. He can only Hummel.
I would go with that statement, yes.
Okay. Well, and then, so the Hummels are going to start to engage here in just a moment, and all of them are going to go after a single 155, along with other artillery pieces. So yeah, this is already hideous and bad and very, very ugly. And the 155 is not going to be able to kind of pick up stakes and move with any kind of consistency here either. And while that's happening, Venatori and Munte are being brought over here to the central position. So he's gearing up for, I think, a push to go and maybe potentially shatter the Finnish center.
Yeah, I think the central position is definitely the best place for him to push his 2 flags, which are pretty close within reach, and that should just tip it over the edge for them. What's also been very helpful for YUYU is they have been very conservative with their tanks and armored cars. They don't get a lot of them, they're not very good, but he still needs them for just some form of close-range anti-tank support. Those 45 mils can be deadly against Panzer IVs at close range, so it's good that he didn't just yeet them off earlier and into the battle and just be they're light tanks, I can afford to lose them. Raappana, the answer is no. Every tank is an important tank, even though it may be a decade out of date.
Or 2 decades, or barely better than a tankette. Yes, absolutely. However, let's not forget that the Shikari still do have Panzerfausts, and Molotovs, and close combat, and semi-auto rifles. So, yeah, we're going to see a lot of dead vehicles, a lot of dead infantry. We're also going to see an awful lot of dead Romanians.
JRS. Wow. Heavy investment. He's really just trying to blow everything up.
Well, yeah, I mean, so that was the bombing run that's going to be trying to push the center. Unfortunately, his bombing decisions, his locations for his hits are very, very awkward.
Yeah, it's really more hitting the rear line, just clearing out that forest and that front end, a town position, and he is now starting to make the push, but now as an infantry division, he's slow, he's steady. He's not going to gain a whole lot of ground in this short period of time, which will give YUYU time to bring in those reinforcements.
Also, at the same time here, too, YUYU is bringing in a small scratch assault team to the south. He's actually going to push to the south, pick up, in theory, the rest of that hillside, and maybe, just maybe, threaten the 2 flags here in the south.
Yeah.
Which is a delicious thought experiment. I don't know if he's really got the time to do it. And if he doesn't have the time to do it, that means it's because YUYU has won. But that's still not something that's going to be easily accomplished here in the next couple of minutes. It's really interesting to see how Luna plays up against that.
Yeah, I mean, I do have that one Panzer IV down south, which can do a good job of zoning out that southern end. But it's only a single Panzer IV. He can only Panzer IV so many things. Oh, Blenheim up north getting very deep into Munte lines and taking many mobile wagon shots.
I'm actually surprised the mobile wagons have as much firepower as they do. It feels like they've been firing almost constantly. They get another kill, though.
Good for them. And we're seeing the Radziwiłłki being brought into the center here, and it's just pretty much been enough time where Luna hasn't been able to really gain that much front line in this, opening he had a minute or two. So these Radziwiłłkis should be able to come in, plug that gap, and once again, it's just buying time. And now we get to 4 minutes, 30 seconds. It's going to get pretty tight here for Luna.
Very, very, but we're also seeing the Munte moving northwest into that northern kind of third of the map, and they're going into basically what amounts to a concealed ambush. So getting forced to kind of dismount early, and that's something, that's speed that you can't be losing at this point as the Romanians are running out of time.
Yeah, time is really not on their side.
Well, they're flirting with picking up another flag here in the center, and I say they, I mean the Finns. Kaivari is being brought on in. Heck, we have the commanders even almost close to the front lines, so I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
Just plugging in those lines, and that, honestly, at the 2 C-phase cards of infantry here for you definitely been quite helpful. So you can just keep throwing in a bunch of cheap dudes, and of course, with 160 income every minute, you can buy a lot of that infantry.
Exactly. You may not have a lot of troops left in the country after the fighting, but for a few minutes it will be enough.
That's a future problem.
Exactly. Let the next administration deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, some of those brave snipers who have been so active throughout pretty much the entire game, I think we've seen every single card of them being brought on in. At long last, they're going down. They're going down, and we're down to just under 75 seconds, as the Finns mount a last kind of desperate attack just to kind of continue to hold their lead.
Yeah, just trying to gain a little bit of extra ground to make it even harder for Luna to do a counterattack. No, actually getting a +2 point advantage here. And the problem I'm seeing here is that I think Luna invested a bit too heavy into the rear line support. They have a lot of artillery, and they're winning the counter battery wars, but they're losing the front line.
Yes. Hindsight 2020. Unfortunately, artillery accuracy maybe isn't 2020, but I'm feeling that might have been the one thing they could have done a little bit better. And I talked about this over here on Tuesday with a different kind of concept, but very similar nonetheless. Using artillery as a rolling barrage, as an impromptu off-map. Get that fire concentration in an area. You can keep it within the same kind of, let's say, field of vision for their guns, and have to constantly be realigning. But if you're hitting a certain position, make that Schwerpunkt kind of idea. I think we could have seen a very different kind of process over here after that artillery.
Yeah, just using artillery on the front line to suppress, these rather dug-in infantry positions, so he could actually move through. I mean, surely off-map artillery doing pretty decent. Well, I mean, the bombing run, my bad. Right, it's technically off-map.
Oh, very off-map.
He could actually gain some territory at Ray, but instead he brought a lot of his firepower, but it didn't utilize that firepower in, the critical locations, which is the points where the flags are located.
True. But you can see right here, KD, this was a meat grinder.
Oh, yes. Very damn close.
And looking at kills in the meantime, we have a Detenuti over here, Lepachku, doing rather well for himself. But as of right now, not that many heroes to speak of. The mobile Vagans, I will say, did have three pickups over here for that one. Other than that, though, a lot of the air powers actually managed to stay alive.
Yeah. And then losses, like, nothing too crazy. Really, that match was just a meat grinder. And for the Finns, that's perfect. This was really the perfect utilization of Raappana in a historical sense. Just hold your line, buy your time, and just wait for the victory, or peace still in real life.
Exactly. I mean, and to a certain extent, too, is you have outdated weapon systems. Good luck. See what happens, and just to see if you can hold until relieved.
Yeah, and they held.
They did indeed. Any final pearls, sir?
No.
All right, folks. Just giving you guys all a heads up. We're going to take next week to kind of really focus on the holidays. So for those of you who celebrate Christmas, a Merry Christmas. For those of you who are coming off maybe Hanukkah, hope you had a wonderful Hanukkah. And for those of you who celebrate everything else, nothing but the happiest and healthiest. We will see you guys all in 2023. Until next year, then, I'm Con Ulrich.
I'm Rangru. Take it easy.